Good day to all. I'm Remya, Assistant Professor from Department of Artificial Intelligence and Machine Learning from RMD Engineering College. In this video, we'll see about distributed databases. So far in all the classes, we have discussed about databases. So database is a repository or a storage area where related data items are stored for later access. So now, whatever we have learned so far connected with databases is all about location connecting to one particular place. Say, for example, the memory location, the data storage, the software, everything is being located for one location or one site. So when it comes to distributed databases, by the word we can understand that the database is being distributed to some various sites. So the distributed database is a way by which you can either split the database and store it into different location, or you call it as a site, or the same database could be replicated and could be stored in different location. So technically, if I could say the definition, a distributed database is a database in which not all storage devices are attached to a common processor. That is what we say. So something like we maintain so many files in our own machine. So we have a small database in our own machine. Sometimes we work in a department or we work for an office where we will be maintaining some database for that particular office. We will have the complete database loaded in the machines connected to that particular office alone. But if it comes under distributed databases, we normally get into distributed databases for storage of large devices and which connects complex problems. In that cases, the machines that are connected to that particular database is not just not just located in one particular site, which could be isolated into different sites, and those sites are actually interconnected through a communication channel, or you call it as a network. So it may be stored in multiple computers located in the same location, or it could be dispersed, but it should be connected through a network. That is actually distributed database. So now, whatever technically I told as a definition is what being described as a pictorial representation over here. So if you could see, if it is normal database, what we so far discussed is all about only this much. So we have only one location where we have our database, we have our machine. So when we want to work for some projects or whatever it is, we connect to that particular database, we access the database, we take the information, we process it, then we load the result into a memory or whatever it is. So all our operation is being done over this particular location alone, if it is a normal database. But if it is a distributed database, we don't have just one location. We may have more than one location. It could be n locations. So for this pictorial representation, it is 3. We have got 3 locations, and all the 3 locations are interconnected through a communication channel. You call it as a network. So this is actually a diagrammatic representation of a distributed database. Now, for when we learn something new, we always learn its advantages, why we are into it. So there are 3 advantages discussed: sharing data, autonomy, and availability. So availability, obviously we know. So when we have some information dispersed over different location, when one site fails, we can retrieve the information from the other side where it is available. So that is actually availability. What could be autonomy is, see, in a distributed database, there is a global DBA for the entire system. So apart from the responsibilities being delegated to a local DBA, each site has its degree of control over its own data. Say, for example, so when we talk about DBA, we will have a common DBA who rules the full distributed system, or it could be a local DBA who is going to have the control over that particular site alone. So when we want to work in that way, we can have an autonomy in our distributed database. And other one is the sharing data. Obviously, database, we normally go for database. It's mainly for storing of information, accessing of information. Those information could be shared. So the user at one site may be able to access the data that is residing at the other site, and so on. So that could be sharing. One thing you have to keep in mind is, like, when we talk about a database, distributed database, it is of 2 types. One is homogeneous, other one is heterogeneous. So by the name, homogeneous means something common. So homogeneous means If it is homogeneous distributed database, we will be using the same software to manage that particular database for all the locations. So here Oracle is used for all the 3 locations. That you call it as a homogeneous. So identical schema or database management system we use, that you call it as homogeneous database, distributed database. If it is heterogeneous, it is nothing but we can have our own database management system for that particular location. So here Oracle is used. In this location it is MS Access. Here it is SQL Server. So it is of our own choice. That particular site can decide its own software management. That is actually heterogeneous. Now, see, so I told you, so far with all the classes we have learned only about the normal databases. So we have a machine, we load the information in the machine, we access to a database. So now when we move into distributed, we have to keep in mind that that distribution of databases could be done for 2 things, or done on the basis of 2 things. One is data replication and other one is data fragmentation. These 2 are actually the key things for distributed databases. So replication and fragmentations are kind of a thing that is going to force you into a distributed database system, or that is going to be making the distributed database work better for any particular user. So replication is nothing but copy of something. So when you have a database, either the part of the database is copied or replicated and put into some other site, or sometimes a full database itself is being copied or replicated and placed in different sites. So that is full replication and half replication. So that is why I told you. So when we have a distributed database, not all the time that we have different item to new items in different locations. It could be sometimes replications too. Whatever I have in my location 1, I have a copy over in location 2 too, and we will have some other data also as well. So replication is a way by which you make a copy out of what is already existing and we put it into different sites. That is data replication. And data replication is mainly for availability only, mainly for availability. So also for parallelism, so you will be avoiding congestion because the data is dispersed, so you can access in one site. If suppose the site is busy or queued, you can access it in some other site too, and it will be available even in a failure. And I'll tell you what is the fragmentation. See, that's why see, what could be the major difference between the replication and fragmentation is, when you have a copy of the same thing, you call it as replication. When you have the entire thing broken into pieces and stored, so say for example, I have a long data which is fragmented into 3 portions, and the 3 portion is being stored into 3 different locations. That is fragmentation. Here we are not actually making a copy, we are actually breaking the entire thing, the normal original data, into pieces, and that we have pasted over the different location. That fragmentation could be of 2 types, horizontal fragmentation and the other one is the vertical fragmentation. See, horizontal fragmentation is nothing but when you have a normal relational database, which you call it as the row-based, table-based database. Say, for example, we have 30 rows, or you call it as 30 tuple. When you can horizontally fragment it, you will be fragmenting it into 10 tuple, 10 tuple, and 10 tuple. So first 10 tuple is loaded in location 1, second 10 tuple. Like that, if you are fragmenting a database, you call that as horizontal data fragmentation. Suppose we are decomposing it based on attribute in the sense column wise. So say for example, our table has got some 5 column. We are splitting it into 2 column, and 1, or sometimes we have a larger database with some 100 column. We just make it into 30, 40, and the remaining, something like that. If we go for a fragment based on column wise, you call it as vertical fragmentation. If you are doing a fragmentation row wise, you call it as horizontal fragmentation. So I will just sum up with what is a distributed database. So when we want to work with data, we normally go for database. And if the database is located in one particular machine or one particular site, you call it as a normal database. If it is going to be dispersed over different location, which could be connected through a communication channel, you call it as a distributed database. So when you want to go with distributed database, you will have to know about the different types: homogeneous, heterogeneous, The definition is going to be common for both. Only difference is the software or the management system you're going to use could be same for homogeneous and different for heterogeneous. And when you want to go with distributed database, we'll be going based on two things. Either it is based on a replication or it could be a fragmentation. Replication is something you make a copy of the existing thing in different sites. So main advantage is availability. Fragmentation is when you have a larger database located in one site alone, you fragment it into portions or subsets and you put it into different sites. So the fragmentation could be two types, horizontal or vertical. Horizontal is a way by which you split the table row wise or tuple wise, whereas vertical fragmentation is like decomposing the table into an attribute wise. So that is with the basic introduction of distributed databases. Thank you.